Good afternoon everybody and welcome back to the Landscape Institute webinar series. We're here today with Chris Sheridan, who's the Head of Education and Membership, and he's going to talk to you through about university course accreditation. So without further ado, I'll hand you over to Chris. Hi Chris.
Hi, thank you very much, Lauren. Well, good afternoon. My name is Chris Sheridan. I'm Head of Education and Membership here at the LI. And this afternoon's session is going to talk about university accreditation, how we do it, and the processes involved. So we're going to talk about the accreditation itself. I'm going to talk about the role of the Landscape Institute and professional review groups, known as PRGs, in the accreditation process and how we and PRG support universities. And I'm also going to talk about the new annual re-accreditation process and the changes made to the reporting forms. Okay, so university course accreditation, overview and criteria. Now, the landscape architecture, of course, has been taught in universities for a good number of years now in the UK. According to our records, we've certainly evidence of the Landscape Institute first accrediting courses during the 1970s. But to give an example, Leeds Beckett, they're celebrating their 50th year in teaching landscape architecture in 2016. So courses have been around for a while, but the Landscape Institute has certainly been accrediting courses since the 1970s. And the evidence, the information we have here at the LI is a little scarce, but it would appear that the process at the time was largely a committee, a group of members who went around visiting various universities that we accredited just to monitor and make sure that standards were being maintained. This approach, of course, changed quite radically, certainly around the time of the Elements and Areas of Practice document, which was published in 2012. This is a very significant and important document in many ways, but it certainly sets out the strategic direction and the framework which the Landscape Institute currently works within. The elements and areas themselves, the document is published on the Landscape Institute website. The elements of practice are the knowledge and competencies that we expect chartered members of the Landscape Institute to be able to demonstrate. The areas of practice are listed here as landscape design, planning, management, science and urban design. And although that document was published in 2012, it is very much an organic document and it will be reviewed as these kinds of documents should be reviewed. But it's a very useful framework to allow the Landscape Institute to look and accredit a variety of different courses which teach or provide graduates with the kinds of skills and knowledge and competencies that they would need to start a career within any of those areas of practice. Okay, so the Landscape Institute currently accredits over 25 courses with 12 universities which are listed here. Some of those universities offer more than one accredited course. All those universities have professional review groups with them. Professional review groups are small committees of professionals and practitioners. The majority are Landscape Institute members. Approximately 50% should be chartered members of the LI, but they can also be related professionals as well as landscape practitioners who aren't members of the Landscape Institute. Professional review groups certainly need to have the expertise and the focus that is appropriate for the university which they work with. And they play a very important role in supporting the course, how it develops, working with the teaching staff, working with the course leader, and of course supporting students and allowing that very important interaction between the student and the world of work, which they will be obviously experiencing on graduation. Okay, so accreditation criteria. The Landscape Institute has 5 key accreditation criteria. And universities are required to respond to each of these criteria. They do that when we receive applications for new courses to be accredited, and universities also follow this criteria when they are responding to the re-accreditation process. So the first one, schools must demonstrate that they have the staffing expertise, resources and quality assurance. Okay, so we need to see details of the staff, their professional expertise. It's good for us to get a good idea about any quality assurance mechanisms that may be in place, so that teaching staff are compliant with all the necessary regulations and procedures that underpin the teaching of the course. It's useful for us to know also whether undergraduate or postgraduate courses have good student engagement with boards of study, or whatever those kind of boards are referred to in other universities. But it's important for us to know whether there is that good sort of connection with the students. External examiners as well, we need to know that kind of information and whether they are also engaged with module boards and other meetings and groupings where the university is demonstrating how it has very robust processes. The second criteria, programs must focus on a clear and defined area of professional landscape skills and expertise, and we're also looking for them to deliver appropriate underpinning skills and knowledge. So in this particular criteria, we're looking for evidence of the professional focus of that particular course. So you would expect to see different kinds of information and evidence with courses in landscape management, for example, than you would with courses that are very much design based. But not necessarily. Some courses offer a breadth. It's important to the Landscape Institute that there is a diverse range of different sorts of courses and teaching within similar types of courses. We certainly don't take the view that one size fits all, so it's a good opportunity for courses to demonstrate how they are teaching in relation to the 5 areas of practice. Okay, the third criteria, programs must deliver key generic skills, which is important, of course, in many different courses. We're looking for evidence of professional practice modules and opportunities for students to gain an experience of professional life, of introduction to client relationships, for example, the kind of interpersonal skills and generic skills that you would need in professional life, and an understanding of lifelong learning and the importance of continuing professional development, which are key hallmarks of a profession and a professional themselves. So that's a very important part of the criteria. Programs must provide a foundation for progression to the workplace. So again, we're looking at evidence that professional context feeds into the teaching. There may be visits by professionals who might give a talk or presentation. End of year shows, for those that have end of year shows, also give a useful opportunity for graduates to meet potential employers and think about those kinds of skills that they need to be demonstrating. And the fifth criteria, schools must demonstrate a commitment to working in partnership with the Landscape Institute. So we're looking for evidence of a good relationship, a good working relationship with the local Landscape Institute branch. We're also looking for other evidence of how the university connects with the Landscape Institute. It may be that in the reporting, the re-accreditation reporting, the school concerned gives evidence of CPD that they can offer and they can deliver in terms of providing speakers. It may be articles for Landscape Institute Journal, Vista or our website. we're looking for that kind of willingness to engage with us and indeed to help the university promote what they do. So that's a key overview of the accreditation criteria. So okay, the management of accreditation. So this part of the presentation is going to talk briefly about the committee structure, how the Landscape Institute reviews and manages the education, the accreditation process, and how universities and professional review groups work within that structure. Now, the relationship between universities and PRGs is a very important relationship, as I've mentioned. They are a very useful critical friend. They can be used and should be used by teaching staff and course leaders to really think about how they can innovate and how they can develop their course. And also PRGs are more than welcome to work with universities to again to help them in terms of innovating new approaches, certainly giving students new or different options or alternatives in terms of gaining some of the important professional experience that I mentioned earlier, because it's very important to students before signing up to courses to have a good idea about how that university that they're interested in engages with the employment market. And we have very good, of course, very good employment rates from our courses. But the relationship is very, very important. Now, with the Re-Accreditation, what happens is that universities and professional review groups report back on the academic year that has just gone. They do so in a form, and that form is submitted to the Landscape Institute. The form is then submitted to the Accreditation Subcommittee with all the other university accreditation forms that have been returned. So they are given to the Accreditation Subcommittee, who meet to discuss the forms. They discuss each university. They read through the feedback and the information that's been provided by the university and the professional review group. Any concerns or any issues that may arise in that discussion is always fed back to the university, assuming that re-accreditation is confirmed. And clearly, as a sign of a good process, we haven't encountered a situation where we've been unable to re-accredit a university for a good number of years. So, so as a process, it works very well, but we're always looking to refine and improve what we do. And I'll be talking a little bit about that refinement in a moment. Once the Accreditation Subcommittee have reviewed the applications, have reviewed the re-accreditation reports, they then make a series of recommendations to that the course should be re-accredited. Or unfortunately, if it was a case where a university was found to not meet the standard, that would then trigger a process where we would engage more closely with the university to resolve whatever issues there were. The Accreditation Subcommittee recommendations go then to the Education and Membership Committee, who oversee all education and membership matters, and the Education and Membership Committee make a decision on whether to ratify the recommendation by the Accreditation Subcommittee. And we, as much as we reasonably can, we structure the timings of these meetings so that the process works as efficiently as possible. And supporting this process in terms of supporting universities and PRGs, the Accreditation Subcommittee and the Education and Membership Committee is the Education Staff Team, which is myself and Poppy Smith, who is our Education Development Officer. Okay, so this part of the webinar, I'm going to talk about the new re-accreditation process. The review and consultation that we carried out, the revised forms, and the amended reporting cycle. So first of all, why review? Well, there had been concern for a while, but certainly in recent years there had been concern over timetabling and of the duplication of effort involved. The process that we have used involved the school and the PRG completing very similar but separate reports. They also had to submit those reports around June, early June, which made it difficult for a good number of universities because of the preparations involved with end-of-year shows. So we knew that the timetable could be improved, but also that timetable didn't quite map with external examiner reports. And in any case, around September, October time, we would get in touch with universities again to collate university enrollment statistics, which are very important for us to hold. So there was a need to rethink our process, to remove duplication and to think about what it is that we are asking universities to do. So the proposal was to combine the existing two reports into one report. They were very similar reports. There was no real obvious reason why they should be separate. So the proposal was to provide one report which the school and the PRG would complete and then submit to the Landscape Institute. This report would be completed every 3 years, and it's become known as a triennial report. Now, for the 2 academic years in between the 3rd year where the triennial report is submitted, we would ask universities to provide a short, brief, reflective report. This is in part to make the process more streamlined and more manageable from an administrative point of view for universities, PRGs, as well as the Landscape Institute, but also in recognition that we were asking for a lot of information to be provided that perhaps was unnecessary due to the strong performance of our universities. The second part of the proposal was to move the submission date from June to January. The reason for that being that that means that in that report we could also capture enrollment statistics as well as the external examiner reports, so that we would have a complete document submitted with all the information that we needed. Okay, so just to explain that again, the way that the process will be managed is that the universities that we accredit have been split into 3 groups. And for the sake of this webinar, Group A, that is the group that will be completing the triennial report. That report is almost identical to the reports that have been completed previously, albeit there is some additional information that we are looking for in terms of student statistics and some additional information as well around the external examiner feedback. And then after that particular year, Group A would then move to Year 2, which means they would be submitting a reflective re-accreditation report, which is a smaller report, but equally there is space set aside for the capture of annual statistics. And Group A would then, after Year 2, move to Year 3, where again they would submit a reflective re-accreditation report, and then it's back to Year 1. So we have 3 groups. We have Group A, Group B and Group C, and they are staggered, so not everybody submits the triennial report at the same time, which is part of the point of this process. So different groups of universities are either in Year 1, Year 2 or Year 3. And obviously we've advised those universities accordingly so they will know what it is that they need to do, and they will be aware of the new dates that we are inviting them to submit. Okay, so an overview of the main changes. Much of the questions in the accreditation form remain the same, but there have been some minor changes. We're asking for additional information, including details of modules, course mapping. We're looking for copies of the external examiner report, as well as the summary and the responses of the university, NSS and PTES surveys, and related statistics to help us better understand some of the key stats that are now existing in the university sector. We're also interested and continue to be interested in the promotional activity undertaken by universities so that we can coordinate better ourselves with that effort. The triennial report will require reporting on the Allies Accreditation Criteria, but the reflective report does not. So that effectively means that every third year the university will be providing details of how they meet the Allies Accreditation Criteria. And in the 2 subsequent years, the reflective report is more of an overview about how they continue to deliver. Reports, as mentioned, will also include student statistics, and the submission date has been moved to January. We consulted with all universities and PRGs on these proposals in May and June 2016, and they've been widely supported. There are some comments that we are working on from those who need a bit more information, but as with any process, we will pilot it for the 2015-2016 academic year, and we will learn from the experiences. But the intention, to go back to the original point of this of these changes, is to streamline the reporting process and to make it more efficient for all those involved. Okay, well, that's it from me. I hope you found that webinar interesting, and we hope to see you soon. Thank you.